Hey, how y'all doing? Hello, and welcome to the fifth episode of Anxious but Thriving. So, let's cut to the chase. I think I want to say like 4 weeks of episodes, like a full month, I think. So we have a lot of things to talk about. As you guys can see, I am not in my usual setup. I'm actually sitting in my car. It is currently raining right now, so you might hear some rain noises in the background. Hopefully, it's not too crazy. You might also hear the occasional car, but I'm gonna try my best to like stop talking once they come around. But I can't help it. I'm actually sitting in my car right now. But I did want to sit in my car today because I feel like it's more private and I don't feel like people are listening to me speak. I just like it this way. It feels a little bit more comfortable, a little bit more raw, real, especially for what I want to get into today. So, my last episode wasn't as personal as I would like it to be. And I was going back and forth with myself because I genuinely started this podcast as a space for me to be able to like vent and document my journey with not just anxiety but with life in general. And I feel like with my last episode I definitely was neglecting that by reading a bunch of other stories. Granted, I do want to do a couple of episodes like that, but I think it was way too early on for me to jump into that. Especially because I think I mentioned that my story was over. It's not over. My story is never over. In fact, there's so many things that I left out. There's so many things that I left out of my story to save face for other people, to make sure that other people weren't feeling offended or feeling attacked. And as nice as that may seem, it is not being true to myself. It is not being true to the reason that I started this podcast to begin with. So we're gonna touch up on some things. We're going to add a little more detail, and this is how I'm gonna do it. So we'll just take my first two episodes. I want to say episode 3 and 4, or 2 and 3. We'll take as my journey through anxiety, right? The different things that I was going through while I was going through anxiety. But today I want to get more into my relationship aspects. I want to compare and contrast my relationships. I want to be real honest. I want to be real about the things that I've done that weren't correct, or the things that have been done to me that weren't correct. Um, I want to compare my relationships and tell you guys what I've taken from both of them, or all of them, I should say, and how I want to move forward, what I look for in relationships now, what I don't look for in relationships now. Because these relationships were two very different kind of relationships. Oh, and by the way, I am very sorry if I end up looking off to the side. I can't help that I'm in my car right now. I do think I have ADHD, so I'm going to be looking all around. But granted, I still will be talking. So I want to get into my first relationship and kind of how that dynamic went. My relationship that lasted 7 years, my longest relationship, was a not so healthy dynamic in the beginning, honestly, but we were just kids at this time. There was a lot of toxicity going around, a lot of one upping each other, being petty. And obviously now, like at the age that I am in now, that's never anything I'm gonna have to worry about. I will never put myself in a predicament where I'm dealing with somebody who feels like they need to be petty at this big old age. So I don't feel like I don't feel like I need to touch up on any of those things. But I will touch up on like when we became healthy, some of the things that I liked in our relationship, some of the things I didn't like, and the things that I'm taking from it, and things like that. So yes, we were very toxic at the beginning. And once 2017 hit, like I said, I had a lot of time to self reflect and figure out who I was, what I wanted, what I was able to provide, and what I needed from other people. So I got back into this relationship with a very, very, very healthy mindset, a very strong self love. I knew that at the end of the day, I have myself. So regardless if this relationship was to work out or wasn't to work out, like I was gonna be fine. It's not the end of the world. I was okay with any outcome, honestly, whether we were gonna break up and just decide things weren't working, or if this was gonna be my end all be all. And that's kind of how I went into the relationship. But I think it's so healthy to go into that knowing that you have a great sense of self. self. You have a great sense of self, and I feel like everybody needs that. I don't think you should be in a relationship if you don't have that sense of self, that sense of like, this is who I am. This is what I bring to the table. What can you bring me? What can you do for me? How can we benefit each other? How can we grow? What can I learn from you? Um, and when I got back into this relationship, during our breakup, he wasn't on the same journey, same path that I was in the sense of like self love and like discovering. He was more like having fun and going out and dating this person and that person. So we weren't on the same level on that aspect once we got back together. But he did definitely give me my flowers in noticing that I was definitely a completely different person. He definitely admired the fact that I put so much like energy and love into myself. It showed 100%. It showed whenever we had issues, whenever arguments would come up, disagreements. I just was able to handle things a lot better with a lot more of like a calm mind. Like I said, because I knew I was gonna be good regardless. So like, yeah, let's figure this out. But if we can't figure it out, like, it is what it is. We're not gonna sit and dwell on it. So the things that I struggled with in this relationship was social anxiety. For example, I couldn't really be around his family for the most part because there was a language barrier. They're very much like, they just speak Spanish. Like, they speak like a very minimal English. Well, especially when we like gotten together, I think they're way better now, but they definitely more speak Spanish and I don't. So there was definitely a language barrier, which made me feel like more uncomfortable. Like, you know, when like people are talking a different language, you're like, are they talking about me? But like, they're probably not. But you can't help but think it because you're like, oh, I can't, like, I don't understand, right? So I would just be in my head, like sitting like family dinners, thinking like, oh my god, are they talking about me? Or when I leave the room, oh my god, I was too quiet. They're probably gonna be like, oh my gosh, she's so awkward. Like, you know, just in your head. But also not just with his family, with his friends as well. Like, a lot of the times they would invite us both out and I would just be like, no, you could go. I just didn't like the way that I would just be sitting there stuck in my own head. And like I said, he didn't really understand anxiety in any aspect, let alone social anxiety. So it more felt like to him, and I bet to everybody else, that I was more like stuck up and didn't really care to get to know them, but it was more like me being too scared. That is definitely something that I try to navigate through now. Especially, well, I haven't dated anybody, but especially like meeting new friends now, like I try to recognize that I do struggle with social anxiety, so I'll try to like push it out of my brain. Like, it is way more difficult than I'm making it seem, but it is possible. Those are just like some negatives that really weren't having to do with like our relationship, more so myself dealing with like my inner self, like my anxiety, things like that. But this relationship was very healthy. He was, or he is, a very secure man, so it was never ever any insecurities, never any, oh, are you talking to this person, are you doing this, let me check your phone, let me see this, let me see that, you can't wear that, I don't want you going here, I don't want you talking to this person. Never ever was that the case. Also, this relationship was very 50-50, and what I mean by that was everything was always split. Everything was always split. Bills were split. Whenever we went out to eat, whoever wanted to pay, paid. It was never like any issues in that aspect. Everything was 50-50. We were equal on everything. I really enjoyed this dynamic at the time. And I'm saying at the time because I'll get more into it with my next relationship. But this really worked for us. It definitely, I feel like, helped. Not helped, but whoa, this car just blew to the stop sign. I definitely feel like it was like a good dynamic for us. It definitely worked for us, especially being like the people that we are. We're two very headstrong people. So none of us were like trying to trying to get off on like get something from one another. It was more like, okay, I'm gonna do this, you could do this. You know, it's everything was split. And I really enjoyed that. There was a lot of mutual respect in this relationship because of the 50-50, because we both knew what we were bringing to the table. We were both like helping each other out. So there was definitely a lot of respect in that aspect. I would also say that I could definitely say that in this relationship we were definitely each other's best friends, each other's confidants. Like if anything bothered any of us, we were definitely talking to each other about it. We our personalities match very well. We love the same kind of music. It was just like a very, I don't know how to explain it. It's just like a very healthy like friendship, not friendship, but like best friend, like companionship. um that's why I look up to this relationship so much, because I feel like we went through so much, like being young and dumb and toxic, to like actually growing with one another, learning what works for us as a couple and really working through it. And our relationship didn't end because of anything bad. It ended because, it just it was just the time, you know what I'm saying? Like we went through our time with one another. There was nothing more that maybe we can learn from each other. I feel like he needed that time that I had to, self-reflect and learn self-love, and he's definitely had that time. I feel like I said, it's been, I don't know, I want to say like 5 years, 4 or 5 years since we broke up, and I can say he's definitely a different person now. Not to say that he was a bad person before, but as far as like self-reflection, I feel like he's done so much of that, and I'm so proud of him for that, because I know that that's something that he looked up to me for doing. So I definitely love that for him. But yeah, no, this relationship was definitely like one of my favorites. It is my favorites. I definitely put this on like a pedestal, and it's something that I look toward, like not look towards, but it's kind of like the blueprint to how I want my future relationships, in a sense, because there are things that I would like to change. And with that, we go into my next relationship. So, I met my most recent ex-boyfriend like a couple of months after I broke up with my first relationship that I just spoke about. And we met via Instagram. I have never dated anybody I met through social media. I am definitely a natural, like I want to meet somebody naturally. And especially after this relationship. Like I said, we met through Instagram, and I didn't know at the time, but apparently he was been trying to reach out to me, which I feel like if I would have known, I would have picked up as a red flag. A lot of the things that were said in the beginning, like getting to know one another, were things that I think he saw me posting. So he was definitely mimicking the things that I was posting, just telling me things that he thought I wanted to hear based off of what he saw me posting. So like as far as like certain morals and the way you carry yourself and things like that. Like I put a lot of thought into those things. That those are things that I recognized at first. And because I did not know this person normally, like naturally in the real world, how was I to know that this person was literally just mimicking everything that I was saying and posting? So, once I had gotten into this relationship, we moved in together really quickly. Really quickly. Part of that was because I just didn't feel like I wanted to live with my parents anymore. So it was a little toxic for me to do, like kind of just like, place to live. But that's just me being honest. I'm gonna keep it really honest here. I little by little started to notice just like little things. I hate to say this, but we're gonna keep it real. Like I said, my last relationship I just spoke about is like a blueprint. So I was very much comparing the two, not the two men, but the two relationships. And at first, you can already tell based off of like the music we listen to, our personalities, very different. Yes, of course we laugh together sometimes, but our personalities were very different. And I remember this one time, oh my gosh. I remember this one time, and I think this bothers me so much because for like for so long being in this relationship, I almost didn't want to show my personality just because I was seeing his. I am very unserious. I can come off as serious, but I am very unserious, especially if I am comfortable with you. So I remember this one day I was just talking about, I think, Mexico or something, and saying like, oh, like I wish I knew how to dance. Damn, what is that song? What is that dance? I wish I knew how to dance something. So I can go to a baile, and I was trying to like mimic doing the dance, and he said something like, I don't know, it's something in the sense of like that's not funny, or that's like cringy, or like something like that. And I'm just like, I kid you not, I stopped and I was like, okay, I guess I just won't be myself in front of you. Quite literally said those words. Killed my whole entire mood for the rest of the day. I would get dressed. Okay, so at this time, after my breakup with my last relationship, I lost a lot of weight because I was going through anxiety and I was doing a lot of yoga. So, girl, I was snatched. I was feeling myself. I was overweight in my last relationship. We were eating good. And I was finally like feeling like myself again. I was finally feeling good. So, of course, I was getting ready. I was getting ready every single day. Every single day I was getting ready. It would be like, who you wearing that for? Who you trying to impress? Who you trying to see? Can you just say that I look nice? Can you say that your girl looks nice today? I remember going out with my girls, and I went out with my girls to get some drinks, and he goes out with his friends to like his friend's birthday party. And he wanted me to go, and I'm like, I don't want to go. I don't really even know your friends like that. I'm just not comfortable doing that. I'd rather just go out to get drinks with my sister and my best friend. So he's texting me the whole entire time. What are you doing? Who's there? Send me a picture. Blah, blah, blah. Enjoy your party, dude. Why are you texting me? A guy comes over to our table, and he comes directly over to me, and he's like, hey, I don't want to bother you or anything, but I think they were going to kick him out of his table. And he's like, they won't like let me stay here unless like I have a table or whatever. He's like, I'll pay for you guys' tab. I'll get you guys a bottle. And me being me, the loyal girlfriend that I am, knowing that I have an insecure ass man at home, I'm like, no, thank you, we're good. Then when I tell you, the girls were sick, 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 sick. To this day, they still bring it up. That's just to say how, like, my mentality when it comes to relationship is like respect. If I know you're gonna feel disrespected, even if he didn't know, even if I said yes and he never found out that our bill was paid for, it would have been, eating me up. Right? He starts an argument. Doesn't know any of this stuff, but starts an argument some way, somehow. I guess I'm taking too long outside, and I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna go home. No, pull up at this party. I pull up, he's trying to get me to dance with him. It's just like not gonna happen. It's very awkward. Yes. Okay. So, speaking of his friends, you know the saying when it's like you are who you hang with. For a long time, I did not agree with that because I hung out with a lot of people who did not carry the same morals as me. Do I hang out with these people now? No. And that is why I think this is true, because after realizing the way these people move, it does reflect on you. Regardless of if you're doing it or not, it reflects on you some way, somehow. You're accepting them doing it. Like, I wouldn't be able to sit there and know that my friend is doing X, Y, and Z, and it's messing up somebody else's life. Like, I couldn't sit there and do that. I feel like it says a lot about me as a person. So I know I told you guys that I had left, I think, one time before I had officially left this relationship. The first time I left this relationship was because I don't know. We're going to get into it. Okay. The first time I left this relationship is because One day he had gotten an upgrade on his phone and his phone was paid off, so he was able to keep his old phone, and he had his old phone in like our storage closet by the bathroom. He had it on for some reason, and he was still getting all his text messages, all his phone call, not all his phone calls, but all his text messages, all his FaceTimes, everything was still going to his old phone, even though he had a new phone. He went outside to hang out in the front with his guy friends. Phone is blowing up. I unlock his phone and I see text messages with a female. And I'm like, this is weird, because the text messages consisted of nothing but him texting. And that's not to say she wasn't answering. She was answering. He was replying to something. He was texting somebody. He, some way, somehow, I don't even know how this is possible, deleted all of her messages and only all of his was there. I come across like paragraphs and paragraphs and paragraphs. I think she texted him because she was like in a DV situation, and Captain Sava, maybe, I don't know, goes, yeah, you should come over with me and my girl, drink some wine, whatever, blah, blah. I'm not saying that we would have a three. We're not weird like that. First of all, sir, the fact that you even said that, you're weird like that. Why would you even say that? Weird as hell. Absolutely not, right? That's not it, though. That was just the icing. That was just the icing on the cake, babe. We just go a little bit deeper, to see what is this cake really made out of. We go into the group chat. We go into the guys' group chat. You are who you're friends with, This guy's group chat is quite literally the most disgusting group chat I have ever seen. Ever. I think I've spoken to a couple of guys like this and like, yeah, I mean, that's kind of normal, but like not in that, like screenshots of females working out from like their Instagram stories, like screenshotting females' Instagram stories, them working out, like doing squats and this, that, and the third. Screenshots from females' OFs. Illegal, by the way, very illegal. Text messages pretty much like bragging, like, oh, this girl's about to go to work, her friend is about to pull up, like, oh, this girl almost realized that blah blah blah, just like confessions. Editing Yaz. I do want to add that for some reason I did take screenshots and I have them on my phone. I did take screenshots of both text messages that I seen, just because I feel like I needed them in the future, just in case he was gonna deny anything. And he did, babe. He did. When we broke up, this ended up coming out because he was harassing me, which I'll talk about further. He kept blowing up my phone that I told him, like, if you do not leave me alone, I'm going to blow up this group chat. Like, I'm going to tell the girls what's going on. So, yeah, there's that. And mind you, the beginning of this relationship, he did not want me to be friends with any of his friends. I was trying to be friends with one of his friends' girlfriends. And I was told a story that they tried to get another one of the girlfriends to like join them. It was just like a weird scenario. And I'm just like, I don't see that in them. Also, like, I really do want to be her friend. It was like so weird because like I wanted to hang out with her. I wanted to talk to her. But like he literally did not want me to at all. If we were hanging out with this couple that I'm referring to, I was not allowed to speak to the guy directly. If I did, when they left, I was pressed. He was pressing me. Why were you talking to him like that? He was eating it up. Are you okay? Like, or is it all your friends like that? Like, you guys can't have normal conversations with females without it being that? Like, this is weird. It was just like a freaking weird, like, I'm telling you, it was like a Twilight Zone compared to my first relationship. Like a Twilight Zone. I also want to add that because I recognize how bad my social anxiety was affecting my first relationship, I was trying so hard to like be friends with his friends. I was showing up to every event. I was talking. I wasn't awkward. It was like a whole different different side of me that I was really proud of, and the fact that he literally did not want it. Oh, girl. Um, Needless to say, I ended up like, what is that word? What is that word? There's a word for where like when you're in something, but you're like low key, kind of like, I'm over it. Mm. Okay, I low key started preparing myself to leave this relationship. I started peeping the red flags, and I'm like, you know what? Like this is not good. So, confession time, confession time. This is gonna be bad on me. It's gonna be bad on me, because nobody knows this. Besides obviously my close friends and the other person. But during this relationship, I got to a point where I started feeling so like overwhelmed with everything that was going on, and I started feeling like crazy. Like, am I making this up? Like, is this really going on? Is this really my life right now? Um, I felt still very connected to my first relationship, in the sense where, this is gonna sound so weird, but I wonder if anybody else has went through this, and if you have, let me know. We would feel when each other was not having a good day, or just when one of us was feeling off, the other one knew. We either had a dream, or we were just feeling off, but it wasn't us. You know what I'm saying? Like, feeling like something's off, but like, I don't feel off. It has to be this person, you know? So they would have somebody reach out to me like, hey, they just want to let you know, well, he just wants to let you know, like, he has a bad feeling, he wants to make sure that you're good, whatever. Cool. The first time this text message came to me, or this kind of DM came to me, is right when I had found out I was pregnant. So I wasn't having a good time. I was going through anxiety. And I think I texted her back like, hey, like, I'm okay. Well, actually, no, I think I was honest, like, hey, I'm actually not okay. And whatever. I was just being completely honest with her. After I miscarried and everything, I think I ended up reaching out to him, and we coordinated to pretty much meet up. We worked together like a couple of years ago. We work together now, but we worked together a couple of years ago, and he was working. So we worked together pre-COVID, right? Once COVID hit, we both got on unemployment, and they called me back in a couple of like months after, the lift, all the restrictions were gone. They called me back to start working again. He was working elsewhere, and one day he had called me like, hey, what are you doing for lunch? Meet me over here at the park. And I went over there. We were talking about like my miscarriage, and it's gonna make me emotional again. I think it's because I needed somebody to hear me that like knows me, and that would put some respect on the life I just lost, and understand how much it's like it would have like, and understand how much it impacts me, because obviously he knows me. He knows how much like I wanted a kid, or want a kid, and he knows how much like a miscarriage would have like messed me up. So I needed somebody who like put some respect on that, because like I said in my previous episodes, when I miscarried, it was very much like that was a seed, like you were barely pregnant. No respect on the life that I was carrying, even though it was quite literally the life he implanted in me. I wanted somebody to just hear me out. And I remember we met up at the park during lunch, and my boyfriend at the time had my location, and he was FaceTiming me, calling me like, why are you not at work? He had a feeling that something was off, and something was off. Did I get caught? No. I ended up telling him that my mom wanted to have lunch, and he knew that was a lie, but he was never going to catch me. So I think like a couple weeks after that is when my dad got me my car, and I was able to like get the hell out of there. Like I said in my last previous episodes, I left because he called me the B word, but in reality, I was already plotting to leave well before that. Oh my God, I said this man's name. After my breakup, I was being harassed pretty much by my ex. My phone was being constantly blown up by like text now numbers. I think I did mention this in last episode. Not only was he reaching out to me, he was also reaching out to all my friends, tell her to take me back, this, that, and the third. Wasn't gonna happen. While all of this was happening, my ex that I talked about in the beginning of this episode was attempting to, like, be friends with me again. I mean, we were already on that process because I was already talking to him about the relationship that I was in before I even left it. So I ended up finding out that something happened between him and one of my friends. And I ended up not being his friend anymore, not trying to be his friend anymore. All connection was lost. I had spoken to this old friend, I guess you can say that, recently, just to talk about this matter because I never got an apology for what she did. I feel like I needed an explanation because, like, these were like two people in my life that I I loved so much and I cared about so much, and I feel like I got, like, they spit in my face, you know? And granted, he didn't cheat on me. He wasn't my boyfriend at the time, but it was still, like, it was still wrong, you know? Like, it was still not okay to do to me, especially, like, you guys are both, like, what is going on? So, I spoke to her a couple weeks ago, actually, quite literally the reason that I'm reformatting this whole podcast. I spoke to her a couple weeks ago, and she went ahead and she told me that not only did this happen with the ex I talked about at the beginning, it also happened with the ex that I'm talking about at the end. So, needless to say, I deserve better. Period. In all aspects of life, okay? And I'm going to get that. I'm going to get that. And that's what my journey is all about right now. The dynamic of this relationship after all of that, right? After all of that mess. The dynamic of this relationship was bills were paid and not by me. The only responsibility that I had in this relationship was to cook and buy the groceries. And this is where I compare both relationships. So, do I want a 50-50 relationship? No. Do I want a provider? Yes, in a sense. In a sense where it's like, so obviously me and my most recent ex-boyfriend, we're working. Both of us were working. He was paying all the bills. I was buying the groceries. I was cooking. But there were days where I would come home from work and just not be in the mood to cook. I would be tired. And he got out of work earlier than I did. Every single day, he was home at least 2 hours before I was. So you would think, like, in the summer days, like, oh, let me just cook since, like, I'm already home. Absolutely not. The days that I would come home and be too tired to cook, it would be an issue. It would be a problem, complaining, and girl, I'm tired. You cook. You cook. I don't think I was able to, like, get the appropriate words while I was filming this, but now that I'm kind of editing it, like, I realize what I'm trying to say. Being that he was the provider, a lot of times he felt like he had the last say, or his word was end all be all. Like, this is his apartment because he pays the rent, and I can't do this because he pays the rent. I can't, like, it's just, it was literally like thrown in my face. Like, I remember him texting me like, oh, I pay the rent and blah blah. I'm like, dude, what rules? Okay, dad. That's what my issue was, as far as, like, being the provider, having to, like, throw it in my face all the time, when in reality, if you really needed me to pay half the fucking bills, I really could. I still don't know, like, so as you guys seen, I experienced 50-50. I experienced provider. I'm somewhere in between still. I don't know where in between, but somewhere in between. I got to figure it out. I don't want 50-50 again, and I also don't want a full provider. It's just, I don't know. It's just very, very, very. Am I the provider? Do I want to be the provider? I don't know. We're going to figure that out in due time. But I definitely want a best friend kind of relationship. I definitely want a mutual respect kind of relationship. I want to feel loved. I want to feel seen. I want to feel heard. I want to feel like an equal. I want to feel comfortable. I want to feel all the good things. I've been single for like 4 years now. 3, 4 years now. I think 4. Closer to 4 than 3. Or 3 getting to 4. I don't know. But I am little by little getting my little brain ready to like start dating again and to seeing what that looks like for me. I keep part of my process now, like my healing process, my growing process, is kind of like putting those things together because I still do have a very great sense of self. Like I'm ready for that relationship. I just don't know what it looks like for me. What dynamic works for me? When I get into a relationship, I am a very much all in. I don't date to date. If I am dating you, it's because I see a future in you. And that's that. So, yes, these things are very important for me to think about right now. Before I even start dating, what do I want in a relationship? What does that dynamic look like for me? That's something that I'm still working on, and I'm still reflecting on, like my past relationships, what worked in those, what I can see working for me now. But granted, it all depends on who I end up with. This was like a lot. I feel like this was like a dumpster fire of a podcast. I feel like I just unleashed so much like of my trauma and like so much things that I left out in my last episodes. I just kind of threw in here, and I think that's kind of exactly what I wanted out of this podcast. I'm not gonna lie. It might have seemed a little scrambled, but it is what it is. I'm so comfortable right now. This is actually the most comfortable I've ever been filming a podcast. And able to just fucking go through it. Like I've never been able to go through it without stopping 1,000 times. So I think this car thing is really, with the rain, is really a vibe. I really hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Like I said, it's kind of rambly. It's kind of all over the place. But I hope you guys like the mess because it's. I'm not gonna say that every episode is gonna be like this, but we will have our occasional episodes where I'm like, "Damn, in my last episode, I forgot to say this, and that. Let me just ramble real quick." So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I'm so sorry for missing the last couple weeks. I'm back on track, and I'll see you guys next Tuesday. Um, don't forget. Just because you're anxious does not mean you are not thriving. And just because you are thriving does not mean you are not anxious. So I'll see you guys next Tuesday. And bye.